Good afternoon to all listeners and a very warm welcome to CEC Gurukul lecture. In continuation with the series on Indian sociological tradition, I am going to today talk about a very important contribution of sociologist G.S. Ghurye. In the previous lecture, I talked about his biography and work in terms of contributing to the professionalization of sociology in India. And in today's lecture, I'll be talking about caste and race in India, which gives us a very systematic and an organized understanding of the caste system in India. And it is to kept in mind that he is one of the founding figures of kind of contributing to the indigenous conception of caste system in India. As we are, most of us are aware of the fact that India as an object of study has been subject to kind of review and literature by a large number of Western scholars. And here is an Indian scholar who kind of critiques and re-examines the existing theory, and based on Indological historical approach gives us a very clear understanding of caste and race in India. So, let us first try to understand the perception, the way in which this text was created and the details, and then we will understand how Ghurye conceptualized caste and race. So, to begin with, we know that this book, Caste and Race in India, was Ghurye's doctoral dissertation, which he submitted at Cambridge under the supervision of W.H.R. River. Though, to recall, W.H.R. River just expired a few months before he could submit, so he worked under another anthropologist. However, when he returns to India, his text, doctoral dissertation, gets published and becomes one of the most important contribution which comprehends the caste system in India. In this book, he applied his Indological and comparative method. To kind of go back again from the previous lecture, we have already said that Ghurye was influenced by W.H.R. River's diffuseness and was an Indologist in terms of kind of perspective, because he was a Sanskritic scholar and was making reference to the past, to the written text, which helped him to make sense of the caste system in India. The book largely describes the caste system as it was practiced in the 1920s. And the first edition of the book was published in 1932, after which 3 more editions came. These other editions which comes in later on are kind of a reworked version of the first, and it includes more new chapters in order to give us a comprehensive understanding of caste system as it was practiced in the 1920s and 30s. So, these the 3 editions which he was published later on was in 1950, 1956 and 1961 respectively. All these 3 editions of Caste Race in India dealt with additional aspect of the subject, because he was earlier he was just trying in the first edition, the text Caste and Race was trying to comprehend the origin of caste system. He was critiquing a number of existing theory and kind of contents in terms of giving some features of caste system. But later on, he also brings in the concept of politics and caste and other dimension to give us a kind of a good understanding of caste in contemporary India. The later edition was an expanded version of 5 new chapters. These 5 chapters which were included was caste, subcaste, fusion of fission, caste, subcaste and king, that is kinship relation, caste and politics in general, and then a specific chapter on the relation of caste and politics in Tamil Nadu. And then the whole idea by the 1930s, 40s, because of the impact of westernization and modernization, a major question was being raised whether the Indian society was moving to a casteless society. And kind of if we look into the debates, this question is even today relevant. Is India a casteless society? And we have both the side of argument. There are thinkers who kind of say, no, caste is still very important, and it's important in terms of marriage, in terms of even politics. The caste has started playing a very dominant role. Yet many argue that today we have a class society, and with the coming in of lot amount of political legislation against untouchability and many other awareness, people do not follow caste system. So it is very important that this question was raised back in Ghurye's text, and he was trying to answer us. Now let us look into the significant contribution of this book. How does it kind of becomes very significant in understanding India as a society? So the first highlight of the book is that it is analyzing caste system through textual evidence. So as I have already said, he is an Indologist. He is making reference to the ancient text, and he kind of had a very positive impression of India's past, and kind of says that it was a glorious past which kind of got affected with the coming in of Britishers, and then with the influence or contact with the Western society. So when he is trying to make a theorization of caste system in India, he is making reference to lot of Indological text which was there, but at the same time he is not kind of only relying on the text, but is also taking in from structural and cultural perspective, also kind of lot of empirical research on the basis of which he comes out with his findings on caste system. The second highlight of the book is that it highlights on the evolution of subcaste and examines caste, subcaste and kinship. So till a very long time, the entire understanding was that caste is kind of a system of dividing the Indian society into the fourfold varnas, and it was only kind of the four fixed categories like the Brahmin, the Kshatriyas, the Vaishyas and the Sudras, which could help us to understand the India society. But later with kind of emergence comes in the terms of jati, which is more in terms of the existential reality in which this Indian society is organized. So the question was how to look into the subdivision within caste, like each of these four castes are further divided and then they are further subdivided. So subdivision within caste system becomes very significant also because marriage rules are placed around subcaste. So the rule of endogamy, which regulates the social life of majority of people, kind of is based on the division and subdivision of caste system. So this comes in from his book. The third significant contribution is that caste system is described as a Brahminical system and believes that the conquered, that is non-Aryan race, became the Shudras who were debarred from religious and social activity of the Aryans. This I will describe in detail when we look into the theories of origin of caste, whether how there is a kind of a theorization that it was the Aryans, Indo-Aryans who entered India, kind of started practicing the policy of pollution and purity, and they treated the local as the lower caste, and over a period of time these lower castes converted into kind of took on the form of Shudras. The next significant contribution of the book is that it is a provocative and thorough analysis of the relation between caste and politics by drawing example from Tamil Nadu as experienced over the years. So many theorization is that the complex relation between politics and caste is a recent phenomena. But here we see in his book, which is kind of published in the 1950s, that he is doing an extensive understanding of the way in which caste impacted the politics in Tamil Nadu. And the next significant contribution is that caste, whatever it actually is at any given time, is always momentary outcome of a structured constellation of historical processes. So this whole idea of how the system was segmented, how an hierarchy was constructed around the people, it kind of also distributed occupation based on the caste of the individual, are all the outcome of a very systematic historical evolution, which comes through very well when we read the book Caste and Race in India. Now we look into the content of the book. The book consists of 7 chapters, and the first 2 chapters identifies the basic features of caste system. Now this content I am talking about the original first edition of the book. The first edition had 7 chapters, and most of the chapters were kind of contributing to giving us a very indigenous conceptualization of caste system in India. These chapters are very descriptive, and it is kind of explaining or giving us a picture of caste system as it existed in the 1920s. And they have a kind of, if we read through the book, we see that there is kind of a very open description of the changes that there is not kind of one fixed way in which caste system could be conceptualized, and the existence or the way in which actually it is practiced is not according to the four Varna model, because the Varna is kind of an ideal type which tells us this is, yes, the entire society is divided according to this. But when we in reality we see only the extremes, that is the Brahmin and the Shudras are kind of fixed, and in between there is a lot of ambiguity, and therefore there were different ways in which you can kind of define caste system and understand the subdivision within it. So they are quite frank about the fluctuating nature of caste and finds the principal definition of caste and subcaste in the constraint of social life and cultural pattern, but above all in the present prescription of endogamy. So when we look into the features of caste system, we'll try to understand that endogamy, which is marrying within one's group, and here group means a caste, which is kind of, so is the important principle of regulating social life. And here it's very important to also understand that at the level of caste, it is an endogamous unit, that is, you marry within a Brahmin or you marry within your Vaishya. But when we go at the level of jati, or we go at the level of subdivision, that is of a caste, it becomes a kind of an exogamous. So you don't kind of marry within the same people who are sharing the same blood, or what in Hindi would be called gotra. So those who share the same growth are kind of forbidden from the rules of marriage. So there is a kind of very thin line when we understand the principle of endogamy and exogamy with reference to the caste system. Chapter 3 and 4 follows the concept of caste through 4 periods. So here he is giving us an evolutionary approach of caste system, and he is saying that the nature of caste over the history of Indian society has not been kind fixed, but it has been shifting, and a lot of transformation has gone. But when overall we kind of have a picture, it kind of appears that over the period of time it has become a more rigid society, in kind of a more kind of constraint, and even the whole level of consciousness has kind of become aware around caste system. So what are the 4 periods? The 4 periods, first is the Vedic period with its Vedic and Brahminic text, and we know that Vedic period was kind of a Brahminical society where most of the social life was regulated by Hindu religious scriptures. Then we move on to the second phase is the post Vedic period, which gets dominated by the laws of the Aryan. So Aryan kind comes in, settles and creates an Aryan civilization, and they becomes kind of dominant in terms of creating a culture which is kind of very Brahminical, and the local people who were there were kind of subordinated into the Shudras. Then the third stage is the great epics and the Buddhist writings, which again if we go through the history and traverse through the history, we kind of figure out that caste as a system of regulating social life becomes more rigid, more kind of regulated by the text, because most of these religious texts makes reference to the caste system, and also in terms of punishments if individuals were not kind of following the laws of the these shastras. And you have these dharma shastra which is summed up in Manu at the outset, and lot of texts like Vishnu Purana and the others which were telling us the ways in which Indian social life was regulated by Hindu code in terms of proper maintenance of caste system. And then the final 4th stage is the modern period, in which various texts combine and flower into a more systematic tradition. And our modern tradition, if we come back to the Gurre is making only reference to the modern period, but when we make a reference to the caste and contemporary system, it becomes also, when we look into the evolution of caste system, it becomes very important to kind of understand that caste in the present contemporary Indian society is also kind of making people a little conscious about their identity. So identity has become very significant, whether it be caste identity or whether it be religious identity or any other identity. And the media, the social media plays a very important role in making people conscious of their say caste, which can be detrimental in terms of causing conflict or in terms of causing violence. So, therefore, it becomes very important to refer back to the past and look into how society was structured around caste system, where it could be only in terms of a functional mechanism, and also to look into whether this organization of this society slowly and gradually became a system of exploitation and appropriation, and that is where the problem lies. So, coming back to the book Caste and Race in India, we see in chapter 5 and 7, it consists of another very important contribution of G.S. Ghurye, for which he is kind of reckoned, and that is the relation between caste and race, and becomes very important to understand whether caste and race is one and the same thing, or whether it is kind of two different dimensions. And to understand the relation between caste and race, Ghurye makes a critical analysis of Risley, who gave us a theory and with Danzel Epstein and J.S. Nesfield occupational theory. So, there are two kind of a theory. One is Risley's racial theory and the other is the occupational theory. As I already said in the beginning of the lecture, that lot of description of Indian society were made initially by foreign Western scholars, and these theories gave us a certain kind of understanding of society in India. Ghurye critically examines both the theory and arrives at his own understanding of the relation between caste and race. So, here when we look into Risley's contribution, Risley was looking into more of the physical attributes to understand race system. So, Ghurye uses the National Index and correlation analysis to show that a strong race caste correlation exists only in Hindustan, a fact he attributes to the location at the portal where Aryan Brahminical people entered the subcontinent. So, when we look into the theory of Risley, we will try to understand that Ghurye is critical of Risley's theory to a large extent, and then he will also kind of adopt it in terms of the sixfold classification of Indian society. So, closeness to ancestral Aryan population meant that Brahminical endogamy could remain stronger in Hindustan, whereas in southern and eastern India, where contact had been longer and the fissiparous tendency of intermarriage has more dominant caste, no longer correlated with the physical type. This is basically lines from his book, which is kind of making reference to the critique of Risley's theory, that Risley's racial theory could not be applied to the whole of India. It could only be applied to area where there was a dominance of Hindu Indo-Aryan population, which followed the caste system. And even here his idea of physical attributes in terms of identifying group was kind of not adequate, because what happens is that these physical attributes, even when we look into one particular caste, say Brahmins, not every member of the caste would be of same physical physique, say in terms of the color of the skin or the length of the nose. So, it could vary from place to place, and that was why it could not be used to kind of have an overall India picture of the caste system. So, he was a diffusionist by kind of his training, but he also brings his ideological and Indological perspective, and very important to mention that he brings in his nationalist understanding to kind of comprehend the caste system. The most important chapter in the book is the kind of looking into the contemporary situation, where he is under no illusion about the caste system, and he knows well that the current reality of caste is in large creation of the British census. So, he was of kind of an opinion that initially caste was an occupational functional group. It was only with the coming in of the colonial rule that the entire idea of caste as exploitative and kind of creating a kind of a difference, and not only difference but inequality between different groups becomes more stringent. In this insight, he anticipated later critical theorists by half a century. Indeed, it turns out that the British themselves were quite aware of the objectifying power of the censors. And if we look into a lot of text which are on the Indian sociology of India kinds of makes reference to the idea that caste or casta was for the first time used by the colonialists in the census. So the idea is that it was there. People were aware of the occupational group, but in terms of an identity which could determine the allocation of resources becomes very dominant or becomes very significant during the colonial rule. Now, in order to understand Ghurye's theory, it is very important to understand Herbert Risley's contribution or his theory. And to kind of quickly mention that Risley was a British ethnographer, a colonial administrator, and a member of Indian civil service. He conducted extensive studies of the tribes and caste of Bengal Presidency, and is known for the formal application of the caste system to the entire Hindu population of British India in 1901 census. So it was the first time that the term caste was used extensively in this kind of understanding the division of the population in India. As an exponent of scientific racism, he used the ratio of the width of the nose to its height to divide India into Aryan, Dravidian races as well as 7 castes. So, he is using his anthropometric data, which is measurement of the physical part of the body, in order to understand race, and that he does it in terms of understanding the kind of physical attributes and divides the population into 7 categories. So, we look into his racial theory of race. As I already said, that he is looking into the length of the nose, which is known as the nasal index, as an indicator of proportion of Aryan blood, which supposedly varies along the caste gradient. Racial theory of caste simply elaborates the earlier 2-race theory of Indian history, and the 2-race theory was again the division of this population depending on the color of the skin into the inferior, which is the black skin, as negroid, who were categorized as less intelligent, less they were subordinate, and then you have the other race which was kind of considered as a superior type, which were the fair skinned people. So, this 2-race theory was kind of done, and he uses the anthropometry, which refers to measurement of living human bodies, method borrowed from Topinet, who is an anthropologist. He uses it, and as I have already said, that he uses his anthropometric data to divide the population based on the color of the skin, the length of the nose, and the rest. So, Ghurye criticizes features of Risley's theory and accepts the framework of racial categorization, and he proposes a new categorization. So, in a way he is critiquing Ghurye, he is pointing out at some of the limitations which are there in Risley's theory, but he adopts the categorization of the entire population on the basis of the classification which he has proposed. So, he is not distinguishing between caste, race, language and culture, and he kind of brings in a very holistic understanding of the Indian population, and therefore, he brings in an understanding that the caste system was coming in from the Aryan invasion of Indian society, and he builds on the theory of caste and race. So, this is the book which we are discussing in Caste and Race in India, and for reference you can read his original text Caste and Race by G.S. Ghurye. With this I come to an end of this lecture. Thank you.